What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy back with Hometown Command. We're back for a fun video idea today. We just saw the release of Dominaria United, or we will be seeing the release of Dominaria United here in a few days. Just did my pre-release this weekend. Had a ton of fun. But new sets mean new brews, new cards to add to our decks, new cards to consider for our decks. Maybe we revive old decks. I've done a lot of brewing over the last 36 hours, 48 hours, but that's not the point. The point we're here for today is to talk about my 5 main decks and what cards from Dominaria United I'm considering. I've kind of restructured the way that I'm handling updating my new decks. Commander Legends 2 is the last big update I did to my main decks. But I want to mention really quickly, next Monday night, September 12th, Mikey and I will be going live here on our channel to open up our box, our set box, select some collector's boosters, a bundle, and maybe a select few other things here on our channel. We're thinking about 6 p.m. Central. Might give or take a little bit, watch the channel, come on in, join us. We'll have some of our friends on with us in our play group opening things as well, and that's going to be great. Also, we're getting into the second round of our recording gameplay, trying to make that the best for you, and that will be coming very, very soon. We're stoked about that. But let's get into it, baby. Dominaria United. New cards into Standard. And I have to say, the first deck for me that got great consideration when it comes to new cards from this set was Goreclaw. Goreclaw, mono green stompy, big creatures. We're going to scroll down here. So what I've started to do on my Mox field is under the considering, I've started to add cards as we get seen. So for example, Vengevine and Veil of Summer got Secret Lair reprints, so I threw them on here. Vengevine is a card that's made its way both in and out of this deck a couple times. But the rest of these cards are new Dominaria cards. So really quickly, I just kind of wanted to talk through for each of my 5 main decks what got added to the considering board, what I'm considering to be added, and then what I think are going to be auto includes. I'm not sure what I'm going to be taking out for these, but I think some of these are slam dunk additions. So we'll start with Goreclaw, and I think our 2 biggest adds are going to be Defiler of Vigor and Silverback Elder. Both of these cards do exactly what this deck wants to do, and they're both going to come down for a whole lot cheaper. Defiler of Vigor, 3 and 2 greens for a 6/6, so with Goreclaw, this is going to come down for 3 mana. Trample. As an additional cost to cast green permanent spells, which is most of our deck, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost green less to cast. If you paid life this way, this effect only reduces the amount of green mana. Well, that's great because most time with Goreclaw's reduction, we're going down to green pips anyway. What this is going to do is we can pay 2 life as many times as we want to, which means if we have a big turn and we need to get lots of creatures down, we can do this. And then the bottom half of this says whenever you cast a green permanent spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. We get a Cathar's Crusade on a green creature that we can cast for 3 mana. This is exactly what Goreclaw wants. Not only that, but remember that we're all about giving our creatures trample, which means even if we cast a creature or 2 and then we go into combat with this out, we're going to get +2/+2 from this, and then add that +1/+1 from Goreclaw with trample when we go into combat, which means that this card is going to make our creatures massive. So that's going to go on the main board for sure. The next up that I think is a definite for sure is Silverback Elder. 2 and triple green, so with Goreclaw, this is going to come down to just green pips, just 3. It says whenever you cast a creature spell, choose one. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, so we got kind of an Aura Shards effect here. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped, put the rest on the bottom. We don't normally have a ton of trouble ramping, but this isn't a bad thing because this is just going to set us up more for the next turn. And then the bottom, gain 4 life, so we got kind of a Thragtusk effect here. So this is great. I mean, at minimum, this is going to get rid of our opponent's big artifacts and enchantments out of the way. And at maximum, at minimum, this is going to get us a land or gain us some life. If we're in one of those sloggy attack matchups where the life is important, we'll take the life. But most of the time, I think we're going to be going for that top one. And I think this is exactly what Goreclaw wants. A great creature that's a 5/7, already great on the body. But when it comes to actually having a relevant ability, that's great. Play it towards the start of the turn and get those creatures down after it. Whereas Defiler of Vigor doesn't care. We have so many other green permanents. We have enchantments. We have, plenty of other things. So I think both of those are absolute slam dunks. The next one is Plaza of Heroes. I will call it now. Plaza of Heroes is going to be a staple in our format for any deck. I would say above 2 colors. Although I think it's an auto-include here mostly for its protection. At this point, I'm playing a lot of basic lands, and I've tried to keep this deck to running a lot of basic lands. But again, I really think Plaza of Heroes is going to become a staple of our format. It will always tap to cast your commander. It will always tap once your commander or any other legendary creature is out to tap for those colors. And 3, to tap it and get rid of it to give something hexproof and indestructible. Goreclaw is very often the target of removal. Now, yes, we'll need a lot of mana to do it, but having it there for free is just something I deem to be really important. So for Plaza Heroes, I think this just comes in for a basic land. It just comes in for a basic land. I don't think that is crazy at all. I think the argument could be made, but Millsy, you're only 1 color. Doesn't the basic land do you more good in more scenarios because you can search for it? And sure, okay. But I think more often than not, Plaza Heroes is going to end up being a good thing. And I want to spec in on that. So then the question becomes, are any of these other 4 that I've kind of thrown down here good? I like the look of Greensleeves. So Greensleeves, Moral Sorcerer from our Dominaria United Commander set, has protection from Planeswalkers and from Wizards. And its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. Now, the way that the rules work, any Star card has its power and toughness in your hand as well as on the battlefield. So as long as we have 4 lands or 5 lands, Greensleeves is going to come down as a is going to come down for the 2 less mana. I also kind of like that whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 3/3 Badger token. This deck never minds going wide, especially if we're doing things we're already doing for free. And so Greensleeves is one of those cards that I'm really interested in putting in. I just don't think it's. I'll have to look through the rest of the creature base to see if it's worth the slot. The other card that I added in here, just because it fits the 4 power threshold, is Llanowar Green Widow. But to be honest, I think it probably will get omitted here. It's really not as great of a card as I would have hoped as far as looking at it. We have Vengevine, which I think sees a potential spot. It coming back from your graveyard seems really good. And then I think Veil of Summer is really good. But what it'll come down to is just finding slots. We already got to cut 2 creatures, and I think we'll end up having to cut maybe 1 more between these 2. And again, I'm not sure what that'll be yet. I'm going to take my time and go through the list here, try to figure out what I think is the best cuts. And I don't want to do that here in the video because it's probably going to take me a little bit. But I'm going to go through them. I'm going to figure it out. If you want to see my end changes, I'm going to have a link to all 5 of my main decks down in the description so you can go check those out. Next up, we have Winota Boros Aggro, the girl herself. I love this deck. And Winota just went through a little bit of a change in Commander Legends. This list is actually a little bit different from the deck tech that's up on the channel from a little bit ago. But still keeps the same strategy, still keeps the same idea. I just switched up some of the humans, some of the non-humans, and some of our ways to create tokens. But let's go down to our maybe board. Let's go down to our considering board. We had a lot of new things come out since the last time I touched this. Our Street Fighter Secret Lair officially got released. And I wasn't sure on these 2, so I kept them in there, and I wanted to kind of see where I felt. So let's go in. Again, we see the Plaza of Heroes, which I really like. I think it gets even better in this, in this deck, especially when it can tap for more than 1 color. And I think we'll bring it in for a Plains. That's my honest guess there. Is it comes in for a Plains, sorry. I don't really see any other great lands to cut for it. I think all the other lands are really worth it. I added an Inkmoth Nexus since the last time I built this deck. I had the Blink Moth, but I realized that Inkmoth does the exact same thing, and I have a spot for it. All right. So I think the big things here are going to be the creatures, but I really quick wanted to talk about Legion's Initiative. This is a card. When I was going through Duel Masters, I saw this card and I was trying to think, is this good enough for Winota? So it's less about the top part. It's less about the buff, even though I think the buff is great because we're making a lot of red goblin tokens. We're making a lot of white soldier tokens. You know, this will help. I think the big thing that I want out of this card is the bottom ability. Red, white, exile it. Exile all creatures you control. At the beginning of your next combat, return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control, and those creatures gain haste. What I really like about this card is the protection that this gives, not just for Winota, but for our entire board. So often we're dumping Winota out on turn 4 and we're swinging. And then we are hoping that none of our opponents have removal on in that turn 4 turn cycle. And then when we untap, we have this massive board that goes to attack again. Now, I would like to see Legion's Initiative as maybe a turn 2 play. We get it down quick, then we get our token producers online, and then we keep going. So I really like Legion's Initiative. I think this is a card that could do us a lot of good, and I want to at least try it. It may come out, it may come back out. It may realize it's too slow, it's not good enough, and that's completely fine. But I think it's worth the shot, and it's worth the try. So here we go. We got Dominaria United Legendaries. The first one that I looked at that I really liked because we have this goblin sub theme, and that is Squee Dubious Monarch. It's a 2/2 for 3 with haste. When it attacks, we get a 1/1 goblin that's tapped and attacking, and then we can pull it out from our graveyard. It's a little bit less good than, for example, Legion Warboss or Goblin Rabblemaster, creatures that make that token before we declare attacks so that we get the extra trigger from Winota. But I like Squee. I think Squee's good. It adds an extra creature into our combat, which can still get any buffs that are out there. We can get Squee back from the graveyard, which I kind of like, but I'm still out on Squee. I'm still not sure. Again, I like that it makes the token, but I wish it made the token before we attacked. You know, we have things like Legion Warboss, right? That at the start of combat we make it, and then we can attack with it, and on that attack declaration, we get the trigger. Same with Goblin Rabblemaster. Start of combat, we get a Goblin token, and then we can attack with that token and get the trigger. That's the only thing that holds me back on Squee, but I think Squee is really good. It's not a matter of the difference between not putting him in at all. I think Squee's worth trying. It's just going to come down to what do I take it out for. The first legend I saw when the set came out that I thought looked really good was Tori D'Evenant Fury Rider. Vigilance Trample, 4 mana for a 3/3. Whenever it attacks, all other attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Other red attacking creatures get trample until end of turn. Untap each other white creature you control until end of turn. So if we get Tori off of a Winota trigger, we wouldn't get her the ability. But then literally every other time it attacks, we're going to get the ability. Now, about half the humans in our deck care about when they come in. But for example, some of them care about when we attack, you know. So I like Tori a lot. I think it's worth the slot in the deck. Again, it's just going to come down to what spot it comes out for. And I'm not sure yet. That's one of the things I got to look into. But I think that's a definite add for sure. Next up is a card that I wasn't quite sure on at first, but I think the more that I look at this card, the more that I like it. And that's Kadrik's Soulkindler. It's a dwarf wizard, so if we attack with it, it'll trigger Winota's ability, which I think is good. The legend rule doesn't apply to tokens you control. Whenever another non-token legendary permanent enters the battlefield you control, you can pay 1. If you do, create a token that's a copy of it. That token gains haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So what I like about Kadrik is if we get Kadrik down before Winota, we could have a second copy of Winota, which I don't see as a bad playline. The other interesting thing about this is any human that comes down, like let's say for example we get a Winota trigger and we reveal an Angrass Marauders. We could pay the 1 and get another Angrass Marauder. Oh no, it's not legendary, sorry. What's a good example here? Like a copy of Rick. We could get a copy of Rick or some of our other humans that buff our board. We could get a second copy of them for just 1 mana. So Kadric, I'm honestly still on the fence on, but I kind of think it'll end up being good. And again, it's just finding the spot to take something out. And the last human that I'm kind of interested in is Defiler of Vigor. This card has me kind of interested. So 5/5 for 5 with Vigilance. As additional cost to cast white permanent spells, I can pay 2 life. And then when I cast a white permanent spell, I get a 1/1 token. This is a human, so I can get it off of Winota's ability. But what I kind of like here is that it comes down as a 5/5, which is already going to be hard to deal with. But whenever I cast those creatures, whenever I can cast my white enchantments, which a fair amount of my white, my enchantments are white, or a fair amount of my creatures are white if I'm casting them out of my hand, it would put in a lot of work. It's a heavy consider. I'm still not sure because I wonder how often I'm going to get the goodness out of it. I think more often than not, it's just going to come down as a good thing off of Winota. And I feel the exact same way about Danitha, Benalios Hope. First strike, Vigilance, Lifelink. So it's going to come down and do a lot of good. When it enters the battlefield, you may put an aura or equipment card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield attached to Danitha. I'm not playing a ton of equipment. I mean, in all reality, the only equipment I'm playing is Horn of Valhalla. But I think a 4/4 first strike Vigilance Lifelink seems like it would be good off of Winota's ability. It seems like it would come down and do me a lot of good. Again, I'm just not sure if it gains a slot from another creature in the deck. So I think this, Defiler of Vigor, and Squee are all in the same boat. I really like them. I just don't know if they are better humans than humans I have in slot. And then as far as the Street Fighter goes, the card I really like here is the Honda. So as long as it's your turn, creatures assign combat damage equal to their toughness rather than their power. And there aren't very many creatures in my deck that have more power than toughness, so this is just kind of is what it is. But the second ability says whenever it attacks, up to 100 target creatures get +0/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So when we attack with it, we get to buff all of our creatures for that amount. There are some creatures that have more toughness and power, and there are a few more creatures that have more power than toughness, but more often than not, they're pretty common. You know, the only bad one here would be like Adeline, which gets a giant buff, or Goblin Realm Master, which get giant buffs to their attack. But again, I'm not sold on E-Honda. It's one of those cards that I'm still not sure on, but I kind of like the idea of it. Ken, I'm still not sure. And it has prowess, which I kind of like. It has the first strike, and then, you know, its ability is whenever it deals combat damage, we can cast a sorcery from our hand. So again, these 5, I'm just not sure. We added the 3 in, and I'm going to go through here later and kind of go through and see if any more of these need added in. Again, the link to the deck will be in the description. You can see what I end up changing as far as that goes. Next up, we have the Simic Menace, Amodi, Celebrant of Bounty. This is a very odd deck, mostly because it relies on playing massive spells. So there are great cards that we saw, but I'm just not sure that all of them fit what we're trying to do. So the one thing that we'll talk about here that'll become a little more important in the next 2 decks that we see, Winota was already playing Battlefield Forge, and I'm realizing that Amodi should have been playing Yavimaya Coast, but it wasn't. So we need to add that in, as well as Plaza Heroes is going to come in for Amodi. Because Yavimaya, I'm looking at these pain lands and trying to figure out, now that we have them, access to them in Standard, we have the pretty borderless ones, am I going to play them in my 3-color decks? I think the 2-color decks play them for sure, right? There's absolutely no question there. It's another 2-color land that you have access to, and you don't really mind the damage even a couple times. But let's go into the new cards that we saw from Dominaria United. So A lot of this considering board here is old cards that I had in the sideboard that I was still iffy on. The big two being Ancient Silver Dragon and Astral Dragon. I really like both of them. I just wasn't sure if more often than not they were going to be giving me good value. So the first new card that I think really fits the bill for Emoti is the World Spell. 7 mana for a saga that lets us pick in a start anytime we want. We can either start at 1 or 2 and look at the top 7 and put a permanent from among them into our hand. Or we can start at 3 and put 2 non-saga permanents from our hand onto the battlefield. Well, all of our permanents are massively expensive. We have some huge creatures like Jin-Gitaxias, Hullbreaker Horror, Omniscience, Zendikar Resurgent. We have these giant, even some of our artifacts, Chromatic Orrery, the Immortal Sun, the Henge, Chroma's Memorial. We have these giant permanents that we want to cascade off of. But what I think the World Spell does is it lets us potentially put this Omniscience down for free. Or put our Hullbreaker Horror or, our Coma, these giant massive things down for free. 7 mana to put 2 of them down if our CMC is, any more than 10, I think is worth it, right? So I really like the World Spell. I think it's going to be one of the big additions here because it, more often than not, is going to help us. Now, let's say that we don't have anything good to put in our hand. Our hand's fairly empty, but all we have is the World Spell. Well, we just start at 1. We reveal some from the top, we get the big things into our hand, and then we either play them, because this deck has no problem creating mana to play spells, or we leave them in our hand, get to number 3, and put them on the battlefield. Now, this deck is made to take extra turns, so the hope here is that we can take those things and then maybe we untap without our opponents ever getting a turn to keep going. Maybe we start at 2 and then we untap for our extra turn and go to 3 and put them down. The only bad part of the World Spell is it has to be permanent, so we cannot grab any of our extra turn spells or our big spells. We can only grab our permanents. But I mean, either of our mana doublers or Omniscience or these giant creatures are still going to be worth the 7 mana for the World Spell. And if Emoti's out, we're going to cascade. So I think that's plenty worth it. Absolutely worth it. The other 2 cards that I was looking at from Dominaria United were Greensleeves and Silverback Elder. Silverback Elder I was really looking at because we cast a lot of, when you cascade into a creature spell, you cast it. And so I feel like Silverback Elder could be good. But again, the problem that I'm going to run into, I think, with Emoti is what comes out for it. This deck has some absolute haymaker permanents. And so the question is, what do we take out for Silverback Elder or Greensleeves? I'm not sure. Like, for example, I really like the look of Defiler of Dreams, the blue card in our Defiler cycle. For our blue permanents, we can pay a blue less. And then whenever we cast a blue permanent spell, we draw a card. Well, when this is out, even when we cast these blue permanents off of Cascade, we'd still be drawing a card and refilling our hand. That's why I really like Defiler of Dreams, is I see a lot of good to it. I see that it could do us a lot of good. But the one creature that isn't in the deck that I really kind of want to try to bring back in, because I can see so many good things that it can do, is Astral Dragon. So this is a dragon that says, when it enters the battlefield, create 2 tokens that are copies of target non-creature permanent, except for 3/3 dragons in addition to their other types, and they're flying. On the list of permanents that I'd love to make copies are things like Zendikar Resurgent, Mana Reflection, Shark Typhoon, Extravagant Replication, Chromatic Orrery, Immortal Sun, Great Henge. Great Henge maybe is a bad example because I don't believe it says they're non-legendary. Yeah, they're not. They don't lose the other typings, so maybe not Great Henge, but any of those enchantments that are not legendary, or even some of our creatures that aren't legendary. Hullbreaker Horror, Spark Double, Sakashima. Now, when we have Sakashima or Spark Double out, well, then it doesn't. Then it wouldn't matter. Well, if we had Sakashima out, then it wouldn't matter. But for creatures, Tide of Industry. Oh, well, that's right. It says non-creature. I'm sorry. We're mainly looking at permanents. We either get 2 more Mana Rocks, we get some of our Mana Doublers, we get another Shark Typhoon, we get another Rhystic Study, we get another Omniscience, which would give us extra protection for it. Again, I like the amount of choices we have, and I think more often than not, it's gonna come down and copy a mana rock. It's gonna come down and copy. Uh, it can copy a land. It could come down and copy lands and make them dragons. So I really think it needs to come in. I see a lot of good for it, and I see more often than not it's going to do me a lot of good. So I think it needs to come in. Diluvian Primordial is another card that I've looked at a couple times. When it comes in for each opponent, you cast an instant or sorcery from that player's graveyard. We would be able to cascade off of those if they are big enough. I'm just not sure, in all reality. Looking at the amount of blue permanents in my deck, I think I really like Defiler of Dreams. It's something I'm willing to consider. Again, the problem becomes, what do we take out for it? The World spell to me is a slam dunk. Plaza of Heroes is a slam dunk. But again, for some of these other ones, I'm just not sure. I really like Sublime Epiphany. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure on it, to be honest. The more I look at it, the more I like it, but the more I'm not sure. And same thing with Triumph for the Hordes. We got to end the game by combat, but it feels really bad to hit a Triumph for the Hordes really early in the game. The other card that I want to add in is Concordant Crossroads. And the main reason is a lot of the times our deck is going to just go off putting permanents onto the battlefield. It's just going to just completely go off and go off. And then we need an extra turn to finish out the game. The thing I like about Concordant Crossroads is after a big, long play of putting creatures onto the battlefield, they have haste and they can kind of get us away from having to wait another turn to end the game. The only downside of Concordant Crossroads is it gives all of our opponents' creatures haste as well, but hopefully we can use this at the time it's most beneficial for us to close out the game. So I really like Concordant Crossroads. I think it's going to fit its spot in. Modi here is going to go up to 106. We got to make some cuts, but again, look down in the comments or in the description for the deck list, and you can see what changes I've made, as well as in the future. When newer sets come out, you can see what changes I am making there. Next up, we have my newest dragon deck, and one of my favorites. We have Miirym, Sentinel Worm, Temur Dragons, and this deck is a ton of fun. We get to play Temur midrange. We get to put copies of dragons on the battlefield. This deck is a lot of fun. I have a deck tech for this one up on the channel. This is the first deck where I wanted to take a look at whether or not the Pain lands would come in on a 3-color deck. So Plaza of Heroes comes in for sure. I just don't see a world where Plaza of Heroes isn't helpful, especially with considering how many legendary permanents and dragons we have. I think it's an absolute no-brainer, and we'll figure out what land comes out for it. But the first one's going to be, do the Pain lands come in? Do we don't like any other cycle of lands in this deck to the point that the Pain lands come in? And unfortunately, I think the answer is no here. I like the Filter lands more, and I like the Check lands more. Rootbound Crag, Hinterland Harbor, and Sulphur Falls. I think I like them better than the Pain lands. So, unfortunately, in this deck, I don't think the Pain lands come in. Maybe if I determine that I have more like red or green permanents, maybe the Kaplusan Forest comes in as another red-green land. But for the moment, I really like where the deck's at as far as lands go. So I don't think those are going to go in. But let's go through the rest of the considers. So some of the big considers I've had for a while are a Planeswalker like Sarkhan Unbroken. So draw a card, then add a mana of any color, create a 4/4, and then search your library from your other dragon cards and put them on. So we really would have to build him up to ultimate it. It just, 5 mana to do that is just something that's always made me think it's not quick enough. We have Imrith, Desert Doom, and Ryusei, the Falling Star. These are both dragons that I really like. They just got beat out by other dragons. So I think maybe over time, this is something that we look into later. The one card that I really like the look of, I'm playing Genesis Ultimatum, I believe, in the list already. I am right here playing Genesis Ultimatum. But I've thought about adding Genesis Wave as well. This is a card that says, reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put any number of permanents with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield, then put the rest into the graveyard. Our biggest dragon, I believe, is 8 mana. Oh, Earthquake Dragon at 15. But I mean, of the other dragons, I think it's what? Artarka and Klauth at 7. Utvara's at 8. So we know at maximum we would want to put 8 into this. We would miss the Great Henge. We'd miss the Great Henge because that's 9. But I think we'd hit every other permanent in our deck at 8 mana. So Genesis Wave is something to consider. 11 mana, we'd we'd look at the top 8, and we'd probably put every permanent we see on the battlefield. We would get some copies with Miirym. Could be kind of interesting. Mirror Box is a card that's sat in here for a little bit. Well, see, because those tokens come down... Pardon me. Those tokens come down as non-legendary copies, but they still share the same name. So what I like about Mirror Box is that it would make those non-legendary tokens come in and buff the regular legendary. The other thing I kind of like about Mirror Box is I'm playing cards like Molten Echoes, which is a card that says when a creature comes in, we can create a token copy of it, and it gets, just we sacrifice it at the end step. Or I've thought about like Flame Shadow Conjuring, which is something very similar, but you pay a red for that ability. And I really like the idea of those cards, but they feel kind of awkward when we're playing some of the legendary dragons we control, because we lose the copy right away to the legendary rule. So Mirror Box is definitely something that I think I want to consider, because I think it's going to help me in the long run, and it's also going to buff those dragons up. Those legendary dragons that get copied, I think it's going to buff them up. The World Spell, just like in Emoti, this is another deck that I've considered for the World Spell, but I'm not as sold here as I am on Emoti for it. I just don't see the benefit as much as I do in Emoti. 7 mana is a lot, and I guess the argument could be, immediately to 3, put 2 dragons down from my hand and get copies of them with Miirym, and I see the benefit there. I'm just not sure, to be 100% honest. I'm not sold yet on it. I feel the exact same way about Relic of Legends. This is a 3 mana rock that you can tap an untapped legendary creature you control to add a mana of any color. The cool part here is the legendary creature doesn't have to have haste because you're tapping it with Relic of Legends and not the legendary. Again, I love the look of it. I'm not sure. I think Mirror Box and Plaza of Heroes are the 2 things I want to do for right now. And we'll see as we move on through the next set or 2. We'll see if anything shakes up the way the deck's constructed. But I think for now, Mirror Box is the ad I want, because mainly just because it gets rid of the legendary rule. So I think we are good there for now. And we move on to the last of our main decks. We have Jetmir, a.k.a. Catsby, a.k.a. Jetmir Nexus of Rebels. Naya tokens. This deck went through a couple big changes in Commander Legends Baldur's Gate. Mainly bringing in stuff like Elesh Norn and Xenagos the Reveler. I have a lot of fun with this deck. This deck is Swarm tokens and Attack for the win. I've seen a lot of cards in this deck do a lot of really fun work, including things like Impact Tremors and Rabble Rousing. These are enchantments that just put in a lot of work, and I really like them. And I also really like cards like Elemental Mastery. I wish I could find another card like it. It does the same thing. But let's go down to our considering board. Again, we have the Painland conversation, and I think here I feel the exact same way. I like my check lands, and I like my filter lands over the Pain lands. I just think more often than not, they're going to fix me better, and I'm going to be better off for them. And so maybe there's something we look at down the line. Maybe there's something that we consider in the future. But I'm playing enough basics because I'm playing the ramp. So I like the check lands for that, and I'm playing the tri-land and all that. And I like the filter lands because they allow us to get mana in and fix our mana in a lot of situations. So we'll add the Plaza of Heroes in. I think it comes in for sure. We just got to figure out what we cut for it. But I think that's an absolute no-brainer. Well, let's go into the cards that I'm considering adding. And to be honest, all 6 of these in the considering board are cards that I'm really considering adding, because I think all 6 of them add good value. So let's go to the first one. King Darien, the 48th. Not really sure why 48, but that's okay. I've seen some people guess online and don't really know for sure. But other creatures you control get +1/+1 for 3 mana. That's great. Mainly because this is going to add to the count for Jetmir, and that buff is great. But the big thing is that last ability: sacrifice King Darien. Creature tokens you control gain hexproof and indestructible turn to turn. I really like this because it protects our tokens, which are the hardest thing, right? You know, our creatures, we can like Jetmir, we can recast. We don't really mind Jetmir dying. But the problem is those tokens, once they're gone, are really tough to get back without another spell or another ability. So I really like King Darien because I think it gives us the ability to protect ourselves from a board wipe. And we don't have a ton of ways to protect ourselves from truly from a board wipe, other than you know, flawless maneuver and things like that, Grand Crescendo. You know, we don't really have free ways to protect ourselves, and that's why I think I really like Darien. The next one that I really like is Queen Alanal of Rudak. It says its power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. That's great. We're trying to go wide, so this is going to come down really big. But the second ability is why I really like it. If one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus a 1/1 soldier token are created instead. And I think this is really great because this is going to pair really well with stuff like, with cards like, I'm sorry guys, I'm absolutely losing my mind. Anointed Procession and Rabble-Rousing, and these things that are going to try to double the amount of tokens we're creating otherwise from our spells. We can have this go off first, and then that 1/1 is going to get doubled with those things. So I really like Queen Alanlock. I think she does us a lot of good. Now, I had thought about, I'm still not sure what creature I want to take out for Queen Alanlock. That's going to be tough, because this deck does not have a lot of room in its slots. You know, we have a lot of different cards doing a lot of different things. So we got to take a look at that. But I think just like with Winota, I'm kind of interested in Legion's Initiative here too. Yes, if we use the bottom ability on Legion's Initiative, all of our tokens go away. But it is a way to protect all of our other creatures, and so that's what keeps me on there. But the big one here is Concordant Crossroads. A lot of time, our tokens don't come down with haste. We do have some instants that allow us to create tokens on our opponent's end steps or things like that. But a lot of times our tokens are not coming in with haste. So I think Concordant Crossroads is going to be really important to take those big turns and swing with everything we've created. You know, more often than not, you know, let's say we start the turn with 5 creatures. We play some sort of spell or ability that gets us up to 8 or 9. We play Jetmir. We swing with the 4 or 5 we had already. And not even Jetmir can attack that turn. But then we get the good benefit from them attacking. Well, with Concordant Crossroads, now Jetmir can swing that turn he comes down. Or all of the tokens we create with some of our spells or abilities can attack the turn that come down. So I think Concordant Crossroads is really important, also because it helps us build things like Beastmaster Ascension and Shared Animosity a lot quicker for our attacks. So I really like that. And then the other one I was kind of considering, because we're playing a lot of spells, is Monastery Mentor. This is a creature that makes tokens whenever you cast non-creature spells. And almost all of our deck is non-creature spells, because as much as I like the token-producing creatures, putting 5 or 6 into a Secure the Wastes or Mulch the Multitudes or a Ganjo Uprising just get us a ton of value. Another reason I like Monastery Mentor is it and all of those tokens have prowess, which means the more spells we cast in a turn, they're going to get bigger and bigger. Monastery Mentor is a card that I think could do us a lot of good, especially if we play it earlier in the game. And if it comes down later in the game, at minimum, it just comes down as a creature that can get a little bigger and make us some tokens in the end run. And then again, I really like Tori D'Evenant here, mainly because most of our tokens are either red or white. So it's going to give the trample to our team, which they're probably already going to have with Jetmir. But I kind of just like this as an option. It doesn't get the auto-include like the other things we've added. But I think it's worth considering. Same thing with Legion's Initiative. I'm really planning on leaving these in the considering board and seeing where my opinion of them changes as we move forward. Because I could see both of these cards finding their spot. Again, I think Legion's Initiative looks a little better in Winota than in this deck because we're trying to protect the humans in Winota that are coming down. Whereas in this deck, we really care about protecting the tokens as well. But I like those 5 ads. It's going to be tough to find some things to take out for them. But again, I think all of the cards that we add in here are going to give us a lot of good value. Well, guys, that's it. That's the main decks, all 5 of them of my main decks. And we do have deck text for all of these up on the channel. In the description below, I'm going to have links to all 5 of these decks as well as the rest of my Moxfield page. So you can see all of the decks that I've brewed and created. I'm going to be doing some more videos coming up for some of the test decks. And some of the decks that I have in final test stages, because some of them are going to get a lot of changes, and so they're going to be fun to talk about too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Remember, Monday the 12th, Mikey and I will be live streaming some openings. We're hoping to have some of our friends from our play group with us. Please, please, please be there. Turn on the notifications if you want to see that. More Brawl content coming. I promise it's coming. I'm working on it. But for now, we got to enjoy the fun side of it. We got to enjoy the paper commander. But until then, I will catch you guys next time.